There you go. Okay. We're waiting. Chandra's not here. We haven't heard from anybody, right?
I haven't heard that anybody is not coming.
Okay. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Sure, you gotta come join us. Over there, over here. Over there, over here. Why? He said the or you can be a rep.
I don't actually have authority. It's just a suggestion. That's okay.
Okay, we're at 7
it's fine,
o'clock.
it's fine.
I'd like to call this meeting of the Urbana City Council, Mayor Council Strategic Goal Setting Session to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Wu. Here. Mr. Evans. Ms. Hersey. Here. Ms. Colasetti. Here. Ms. Bishop. Ms. Wilkin. Here. Mr. Quisenberry. Here. Mayor Marlin.
Here. Before we go on to approval of public input rules, I do want to read a statement because we are engaged in a little bit different meeting process here. The goal-setting meeting tonight is an atypical meeting format. We'd like to take a moment to explain the process. This is a public meeting. It complies with the Open Meetings Act requirements. These requirements are: 1, the meeting must be open and available to the public. The meeting must be properly noticed. Minutes of the meeting must be taken. We have taken all the required steps. The city clerk also is making an audio recording of the meeting, which will be available afterwards. The only order of business tonight is a facilitated discussion on city council goals. No final action or votes will be taken tonight. The final mayor council goals will ultimately be adopted via resolution at a regularly scheduled city council meeting. During the discussion tonight, we may break up into smaller groups. That's not a given, but just in case we do, I just wanted to let you know that. There are stanchions that delineate the city council's working area and the area that's accessible to the public. And this includes members of the public who wish to record tonight's meeting or listen to the discussion. City staff, elected officials, and the facilitator, Kevin James, can access within these stanchions, and others will stay on the other side. Any person engaged in disruptive behavior will be asked by the city clerk to move an appropriate distance away from the working area so that business can be conducted in an orderly and productive fashion. Public comment, as at all open meetings, will be taken at the beginning of the meeting. In order to focus on our goal-setting task for tonight, we're asking that we suspend council rules for public input and in favor of limiting public input for a total of no more than 30 minutes and 3 minutes per person. And we've taken similar actions at our goal settings in the past. So the first, the only order of business I would ask is that you approve a change for this night only in public input roles to have a total of 30 minutes of public input with 3 minutes per person. Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, moved by Mary Alice, seconded by Jaya. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Okay, thank you, and we'll move on to public input. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak tonight? Okay, seeing none, I'll turn this meeting over to our facilitator, Kevin James.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. All right. Hello, everybody. Do you want me to have a mic? No, but there is one right here. All right. I usually talk pretty loud, but can you hear me in the back? Really? Man,
some of us have hearing loss.
that is the first time I've ever been said I'm not loud enough. All right. So awesome. I appreciate you having me back here. And so as we go into this session, I think we're going to have a lot of productive conversation and with some goals to start to narrow down and start to finalize the council strategic goals. So before we get started, I wanted to go over a couple things. Does everybody have this sheet in front of you, which is got all of the strategic areas with their strategies and then the proposed action steps or action step ideas? Because that's what we're going to be working off as a council. Staff, do you have a copy of that? You can see that. We're going to be staying in a large group format, and we're going to be having these discussions and going through this, and then obviously staff can answer any questions, or if staff needs to chime in with anything clarifying, I can turn over the mic, or we have another mic up here. And so, any questions before we get started from any of the elected officials or staff? All right, let's get going here. So, first of all, when I looked at this, there are 61 potential action items. I'll ask the council and mayor, do we feel that this is too big of a list? Can I show of hands? All right, most of you think it's a big list. All right, so is your expectation for tonight that we're going to dwindle this list down? Can I see some hands? Or you can verbalize. All right. Yeah. When I started looking at this, based on when I was reviewing it and studying it, this is, I'll be honest with you, it's just too much for the next 2 years, you know. And I'll be honest with you, when I work with groups and I'm thinking, you know, how much resources you have available, I'm really thinking between 24 and 30 would probably be a really good number. Your last round had 39 action steps. And these action steps are not just check one box, do one thing, send one email. There's sub-actions to all of these. So there's a lot to be done. Now, I was speaking with the mayor before, and you guys have been doing a lot for the last couple of years, which that's good. And some of the stuff is carrying over. So the goal tonight is, as we go through this, we're going to have to really make some of these decisions. Now, some of this stuff might be very obvious that it's like, yes, we want to move forward, even based on the survey. Some of it might be revised into a final action step that makes more sense. But I think for our goal is to have these discussions and really just go through this and say, what are the top priorities in each one of these areas? Is that an okay format for us to move forward with? Or does anybody have any other expectation of what we want to do tonight? All right. So, we're just going to go through this document, and really, I mean, when you first look at it, there's some calculation based on, there was a simple formula, I think, done by Will. Will, did you put this into place?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to give you credit when you get credit, and I don't want to throw you under the bus if I didn't have to. So if anybody has a problem with this, it's Will. So the way we did this is a yes gets 1 point, a no got a minus 1 point, and yes with revisions got half points. So some of this stuff seems very obvious. And I know a lot of you have additional context to these areas that might require us to say, hey, this is already being covered under something else under the city. So I'm just going to go through these strategies one at a time. And so the first area we're looking at is public safety and well-being. All right? The first strategy is pursue methods to mitigate community violence. The first action step is continue to fund community partners and projects that address the root cause of violence while monitoring results and effectiveness. That seems like there was 4 yeses and 2 revisions. Does anybody want to comment on that? Or are we just going to pick it? We can do this real quick.
Yeah, my thought on this and some others that also apply was just being sure that we're consistent about monitoring and effectiveness, that it's there for some and not others, and also being aware, especially preventative measures that aren't going to have maybe an easy measurement of things that were prevented or didn't happen. So just being aware of some concerns about making sure that we have realistic expectations and the same expectations for these.
Is there any other comment on that? I know we're going to be passing the mic here. Does this need is there a revision, Grace, you would like with that? It's just that monitoring portion of it while it says that?
I'm okay with the wording. I would suggest we add it to some others if we do keep it.
Add the monitoring for results and effectiveness. Add that to others, or add this.
Yeah, as there are similar ones, like city programs. If we keep enhanced city programs that address root causes of violence while monitoring results and effectiveness,
Okay.
and make sure that we don't have that just for all the community partners and not for any.
Sure.
So I think just being consistent, and then we can figure out some of the details of what does effectiveness mean and how do we measure it down the road.
Okay, that makes sense. And just so maybe I didn't make this clear, I really think when you start to look at these areas, you guys are going to have to decide on the top 2 of each of these areas. That's 2. There's 12 strategies. That means there would be 24 action steps. Trace?
I guess what I want to understand is how does one monitor this? Are we going to have a plan? Are we going to have who does the monitoring? Who determines, like you said, effectiveness? It's kind of difficult to prove something that's presented because it's been presented. So,
I can say from experience that I've done with work around prevention, often it'll be like number of programs provided, how many people are reached. So I agree, right, we have to do something to find what that means. But yeah, you can't really say, well, this many people were not harmed. Easily you can that connection. So I think some of that falls on the folks like Brady to figure out
So
how we
who's going to be responsible for the monitoring?
I mean, I'm not trying to volunteer or anything. I'm just saying what I've seen is with grants and in general is it's usually there's a defined, there are defined categories of how are we defining that, right? So like United Way has very specific criteria that they expect. Others might look at the number of programs provided as a mental health boards in the county. So yeah, we just have to define what we mean by that, but that might be good.
I would also, if we do want another answer, this was not from me, I think, or council. It's kind of hard on some of these recommendations because we have some track changes. I'm guessing from, actually clarify, from further staff comments or from the group meetings we did last time Kevin was here. Because we got some track changes back and that's where this popped up. So I don't know where it came from. So I'm not the one to address or defend it. I don't know who proposed it.
Yes, the track changes at the end of last meeting, there were a lot of notes with no clear consensus. So the track changes, we're trying to consolidate multiple comments, looking comments, and try to resolve it all at once. So the individual things that you see here, they're not a staff suggestion by any means. They're just things that came up in previous meetings from all sorts of places. They're kind of all over the place, not well defined.
I just wanted to say that monitoring results and effectiveness, based on what Jay has said, part of it is just like who they serve, how many people they serve, what are they doing, right? So to imply that something is effective because you did X is very difficult to prove. So if we do that while monitoring the program participation and potentially effectiveness or impact of some kind, right? That would give you the option of doing one or the other.
So is this good to move forward? Damon, you got something? So is that the first action step that you guys were going to support for underneath this strategy?
I think Mary Alice had suggested for rewording to make it clear.
I just wanted to remove results and
So it would say monitor for.
just monitor the program, right?
Yeah, continue to fund programs that address the root cause.
Evaluate the program, evaluation.
Because wouldn't it be,
There's a term that we use a lot in ASCII called key performance indicators, where you define what success looks like and define how you measure that, and then you weigh yourself against it. It doesn't mean it's an effective necessarily, but you set a target
Yeah.
to say, this is a thing that will tell us whether we're getting better, or we're staying the same, or we're getting worse. I don't know what that is in this instance, but other ones, there are things where you can define those key performance indicators and how that's measured so that you can track that.
So then we have to have performance indicators to do it.
That would be part of the initial step.
Is-
You have to define what the key performance indicators are.
Based on that comment, that would be an action step by itself, where you're developing key performance indicators or metrics, whatever terminology you want to do. Of what are you trying? You pursue methods to mitigate community violence, but what are those metrics? Now, I know there is the Barry Dunn report that's coming out. Is that addressing and outlining some of those KPIs or KPMs? Chief, do you know? No. So this would be something internally that you guys would do.
So for ARPA, which is maybe what we're continuing, for each project we asked everybody to say what they wanted to be evaluated on. So for each project that there's existing from the ARPA perspective, they do have these key performance indicators. Are they all great? Probably not. They don't. They're all varied. They're all individual. You can figure out as you go what you want them to demonstrate they're doing from a quantitative perspective. So we do this already for ARPA.
Okay.
It's all of them.
So these already have been established? These KPIs,
so we've
KPMs?
done it before where each project, you know, how many households can you serve,
Yeah.
this, that, the other thing, they can be, whatever you want them to be.
Okay.
You can define them on an as project basis. And we've done that in the past, so it's nothing new. We're not rewriting anything.
Okay.
And other grants and things too, right?
So I think you can leave that as an action step. My suggestion is you can leave that an action step and put some sort of wording. We don't need to do that right here about, is that matching up to any sort of the KPIs? Oh, thank you. So you can leave that as an action step, the first one, and wordsmith something about KPIs or KPMs, whatever you want to call that. That's what my suggestion is. Do we have a moving forward, Therese?
I just want to say one more thing. Regarding evaluation, monitoring, whatever.
Yeah.
it's on the call. Would having folks that be given ARPA funds to making them tell us what exactly someone's monitoring or evaluating, they have to show up and give us output, outcome, effectiveness, instead of, because reading this the way I'm reading it, it sounds like we have to have some kind of staff do it. Like Will or Chief Boone or somebody, But if we require, which I thought we were doing when we were passing out money too, that was part of the application process, that they would have to report back to us and tell us exactly what they're doing and if it's working. Is that the same as monitoring for effectiveness?
Grace, I hope with the comment that you were making with our internal partners, hopefully being the police, I just see this as an annual reporting system. It's not going to keep up with the rate of crime, and by the time we get the reports, it's not going to give the police the opportunity to pivot how they need to address the issue, because crime rates may change, type of crimes that are happening may change. And if we're just allocating money to groups and wait for an annual report, we're going to have to have groups report more annually if we're going to successfully monitor the monies that are going out to say if the programs are helping. Because the police are going to be the first indicator to tell us if any groups are helping the efforts that they're looking forward. So if we're not going to do this from a technology-based standpoint, I think it's going to be very difficult, because it's kind of going to be, an approach to monitoring and stuff. So I think it's a way bigger lift than just people and groups that we're getting to. We're going to have to establish that they be able to report at a frequency that allows us to make these type of decisions, I think.
Two mics. Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for clarifying. I think that's actually the exact opposite of what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't want it to be held to those systems. I don't want to correlate the actions of grassroots community work to crime rate, because there can be a correlation, sure, but that's not going to be a causation. Crime went up the highest during the pandemic, regardless of what community partners were doing. That's not a correlation that I'm trying to make, and that's my point here, is that monitoring effectiveness, I think, needs to be how many people did they reach out to, what was their mentorship, this many hours of stuff, this many resources, not trying to link it to crime, because you're not going to see a preventative thing that way. If things stay stable, we could say it didn't work. You're not going to see what didn't increase. So I'm trying to say that I don't think it should be measured in that kind of way. I'm sorry if that wasn't clear. Thank you for the opportunity to clarify.
Yep. So are we moving forward with this one? We're at 20 minutes, we're on one. We got 61 of these if we go through this.
I'm not
Yeah.
entirely clear on what you're trying to say. Is it crime or is it social?
Root cause of violence, yeah, that's a interesting term, so.
Yeah, so if I can, because again, this is my day-to-day. Violence prevention is a whole area, right? So I think what I'm seeing here that looks like there's a lot of continued support from the council and the mayor is making sure that we are supporting the agencies in the community. They're doing the work to try to keep violence from happening, right? We can get into the other pieces later, but this part is, looking at, this was ARPA related initially. What I'm hearing from Mary Alice, which I think is a good point, is that the effectiveness word might not be the right way you want to phrase that, but making sure that we're saying, we do want to know what they're doing, right? That's standard for any grant you give anybody. You're not just going to be like, free money, have fun, right? So, maybe continue to fund community partners and projects that address the root cause of violence and ensuring
Monitoring impact.
or ensuring ongoing evaluation.
Yeah,
right?
ensuring ongoing evaluation, that could be a good one. I just want to make sure, just for the sake of time. Okay.
I'll be quick.
Sure.
Part of the reporting for anybody receiving ARPA funds is every quarter they are required to give an update on what they're doing. So we get those reports from RPC. That's a good start. That's got the key performance indicators. And after a year or so, if you want to get an overview of what's happened in the first year after they receive funding, that would be a good start for evaluating the effectiveness. Or just getting an idea, are these groups doing at least approximating what they said they wanted to do.
Okay. So are we good with this one? Yes? All right. 1. We're well on our way. Hey, you got to get started here. All right. So, based on, again, I want us to look, maybe just try to identify the top 2. The next one talks about completing the Barry Dunn Public Safety Review. And the reason I'm picking this one is it does have a number of 4 or above. Is that, and then which is, so complete the Barry Dunn Public Safety Review, which I was talking with Rich, that's going to be done sometime this next 6 months maybe?
Yeah, I just looked at the progress report. They're anticipating it's going to be on time July of 24.
So, July of this year, right?
Correct.
So within the next 6 months. Okay, so you're going to do that. And then determine which recommendations to implement and create a plan for the 21st century. So based on that report, this is really a to be determined, but it's obviously extremely important. You guys have invested time, energy, and money into this report. Is that the second action item underneath this one as a priority? Saying 5 said yes, somebody said no. Consensus wins? All right. 2. All right, we're not even going to talk about the rest of them in this category because I want to get us through all of these these strategies of all the areas, and then we'll double back if we have time. We're going to try, and then unless you guys want to comment like, hey, these are all strong, we want these, and really that kind of leads. If you look at the next one, which is strategy 1.2, enhance and expand public safety resources. You have 4 strategies, or you have 4 action steps, and they were all highly supported. Are these all 4 valid? We talk about enhance and expand alternative emergency response models. Everybody said yes. I'm assuming that's a go. All right, there's 1. The next one, the next 2 actually had a 5.5 rating. Develop comprehensive safety plan based on public safety review. Is that public safety review different than the Barry Dunn? All right. Yeah. Where's all my mics?
All 4 of these under this 1.2 are related to the Barry Dunn safety review.
All 4 of these?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So how does that wordsmith into one or something else? Anybody have any comment on that?
I disagree. I think that the public safety review can be very done, also some other things too. I think it would be great to include some additional public input or other models and research. And then I guess we don't have much of a preview of the study, so I guess I can't really say actually about revising the CPRB, but you're saying that is part of it, and it seems like the city internal, there are also going to be recommendations on that.
Yeah, they looked at CPRB.
Who, and ambulance transport?
Fire.
I don't think we can, that's not part of our scope right now.
Sorry, what was that?
I was going to suggest that the Department of Ambulance Transports, it feels like that's something that's already either done or so far down the road that we don't need to put it on this list.
Whenever I talk with organizations, if it's really operational, it's probably less strategic. Meaning if it's already incorporated. Huh?
If the chief says it's okay to take it off the list, then
I think you talk about some of the things that may already be in place.
Yeah.
Going back to this can be removed, this.
And that kind of leads me back to another overall idea. Just because it might not show up on your strategic goals over the next 2 years, it doesn't mean it's not happening, maybe, because it might already be already down the road. It doesn't mean that maybe at some point you guys would have to pivot. I always like when I work with groups is it's not just a strategic plan, it's strategic thinking. So something might change 6 months or a year. Maybe you get something that you have to have those discussions. You do want to put forth to the public and for yourself your priorities like you did 2 years ago. So that's why we're going through this process. But at the end of the day, if something that was maybe suggested here, it still is documented, it just might not be at the forefront of staff's first comment. But this one sounds like it's already in operation.
I think some of the crosshairs that we have too is that each department also has strategic goals. But this
Yeah.
will be a high priority for us that ends up taking care of both.
Yeah. And that's perfect. If you're doing things that, as a department and as a staff, you're like, hey, we're working towards these things, and that marries up with council goals, that's perfect. Yes?
I'm going to advocate for keeping it on here, and this is why. It's already being done. We already have staff who are working on this. It's supposed to be done. And last time we did this process, there's some things on that list that was already in process. And I said, hey,
Okay.
we're already doing the equal projects. We're already doing this.
Okay.
It's good for us to keep it on.
Is the word explore then word explore should be different? Are you going to implement something? What are you doing with the fire department ambulance transport? Are you or are you still in exploring phase? Carol. Hot mics around. Hey, behind the stanchion, please.
Thank you. As the person who corrals everybody for the quarterly reports, I don't see this as conducive to that. We're not going to have quarterly updates on the ambulance transport thing. We have done some exploration of it. It's not something that we're going to implement, I would say, in the next 2 years.
Okay.
And so having an expectation that there's going to be sort of breaking news on it over the next few years, I just don't see that happening.
Well, and that's fair. If it's not going to be, if there's not much movement that's going to happen because it's either so far out or you've kind of already started down that and it's not maybe feasible, it really shouldn't be on this 2-year strategic goal plan. So are we keeping the top 3 because they are still, I know they relate to the Barry Dunn, and then not having the fire department one? That's what might be a suggestion from Carol.
Okay with that? I still support exploring ambulance transports. I'm okay with not having it on the goal, but
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I would recommend on the second one to add public safety review and additional public input.
So develop comprehensive safety plan based on public safety review and additional additional public input. Is that okay to have that? What do other elected officials think?
Yeah, so there was a number of ways for public input into the study, and of course, the study turns into an action that the city council is going to take. There will be public input at the committee of the whole meeting where we discuss it. Will be, so I don't know, I mean, I think all of these things where we take action require public
input, yeah.
So it feels kind of redundant to have that in one place.
Yeah.
I feel like for this one, it's important because we've heard some feedback from community members who didn't feel like they were particularly heard in some of the sessions with Barry Dunn. So I think that making it clear that we want to continue, yes, I mean, of course we're going to, but sometimes it's a way of demonstrating that this, you know, these are our goals, these are our priorities. Public input on this issue is a priority. So I like that language.
I think if it's written in there, you guys will, again, James, you already talked about it's going to happen. Jay is, but if there's some group or some area that says, hey, maybe the study didn't fully hear our voice, having that in there, it does signal to the community that we still want to try to include as much as possible and as reasonable. All right, so those three, I think we keep the top three for that 1.2, and then the additional wording is and additional public input. All right, now we're humming. There we go. All right, 1.3, promoting community well-being. We had lots of action steps here, but I really want us to focus on the top. Well, let's look at the top one first. We'll start there. Complete a systematic review. Oh, I'll take the mic, I guess.
Thank you.
All right. Complete a systematic review of ARPA sub-recipient programs, evaluating outcomes and identifying sustainable funding sources for highly effective programs. Does somebody know what that means?
Yes.
Good. Do we like that one?
Sorry, I do have questions because how are we determining what's a highly effective program, right? If we're using variable methods for determining the programs, from what I've heard was with ARPA, we asked all of them, pick how you want us to evaluate. If we're using different methods to evaluate, I have some concern of saying, okay, well, this one is effective because they use these tools to evaluate their program. This one we don't think is as effective. I have a little bit of concern about just saying that's how we're determining who to continue to fund if it wasn't a consistent basis and there wasn't an expectation for that related time funding.
My understanding is that ARPA funds, recipient programs evaluating outcomes and identifying sustainable funding sources. Is it really our responsibility to identify sustainable funding sources for if we gave them ARPA funds and that up to whoever is doing what they're doing? I'm trying to understand why this would be under a city goal anyway to identify sustainable funding sources. I don't see how that is conducive.
If you look at the note behind it, I think when we had our groups the last time, it was determined exactly what it's saying there is that instead of identifying those sustainable funding sources, that we were looking to put a process in place to see who we would that apply.
Okay.
It's a little different.
So this actually has changed.
Well, that's what you guys need to decide is how to specify what you want.
I'm just going to raise that concern again because just, being in the world working with folks for nonprofits, there are people who did not apply for that money because there wasn't a long-term plan. right? So because it wasn't a sustainable method, there are a lot of places that if they have one-time cost or one-time need, you know, they need a vehicle, they need, you know, a piece of equipment, that those are a lot of the programs that we funded.
More of like a capital.
Right,
Okay.
because it was one-time money. So I just want to make sure we're not penalizing people who said, hey, this is an incredible opportunity, but I can't sustain it. I think that making sure that we continue to think about how are we investing in our community as we are able to, right? Like my comment was, where's the funding for this? Because I'm biased. I live in the world of working with folks with nonprofits. There's always extra need, but I'm a little concerned about saying, okay, you got ARPA money, therefore you are eligible for other money, because there are going to be people, organizations doing good work who didn't apply because they knew it wasn't sustainable and they didn't have a one-time expense to spend that money on. So to me, and I think there's a lot of these areas where we could probably consolidate if there's consensus that we want to increase funding for social services or something along those lines, and again, keeping in mind there would need to be some sort of evaluative component to it. To me, that feels more appropriate than just saying, well, these are the ones that we have now determined are effective, and those are the only ones that deserve additional funding, even though we never said that when we were laying out the opportunity for ARPA in the first place.
I actually agree with Sharice and Jaya. I think that if we just remove part of this sentence and just say, complete a systematic review of ARPA subrecipient programs and review outcomes, and just leave it after that. Because I don't think the city is in a place right now where we can identify for them what the sustainable funding is. And I agree with Jaya that ARPA funds doesn't represent all of the needs of the community. There are other programs that did leverage that for different reasons, lots of different reasons. So that's what I propose, is just to remove everything after we can.
So complete a systematic review of ARPA sub-recipient programs. Could you just put a period there?
Sure.
Right? I mean, it's very actionable too. You complete the review, you can, I mean, really when it comes down to action steps, you can measure, did you do it or did you not do it?
Right.
Did we complete the review? Yes. Now after that goes into additional, well, what'd you learn from that? And that could be, that's for further discussion.
What is our purpose of doing that review? I'm not saying that data
Okay.
is useful, but time is also a useful resource, right? So are we reviewing it with the goal of coming up with other programs that, funding sources for down the line? Are we reviewing it just out of curiosity? Because again, part of the ARPA subrecipient agreements already is that they have to be doing reports. So I'm just trying to be thoughtful about our staff time too, or is that RPC contract extended to be able to do that review beyond what we're already asking them to do?
Like, what's the goal? Like, you're going to do the review for what?
So and this is from me being, really wanting to help particular programs, or people who said they had programs, and then it doesn't turn out. So I just like to know that you did what you said you were going to do, and that you're being mindful of taxpayers' money, like you expect us to be mindful of taxpayers' money.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but that's already part of the ARPA process.
Yeah.
Well, it can also, it's the same thing, it may be, but the thing is that when it comes down to it, folks will say what they want to say. And they.
If it's already being a part of it and there's nothing additional to review, then I would almost say it's not an action step that's.
Would we say council could review? I guess I just don't know if it's a priority though, right? Like, I am curious, right? Like, what did people do with that ARPA money? But to me, saying what my goals are for the next 2 years, I'm not, like, that's behind us. And while I do want to know, what worked and, what were people able to accomplish with that, if it's not going to lead to opportunities for us to continue to fund, the important work that people did, I just am not personally sure what the value is.
I mean, it'd be different if you're saying complete a review because we have this additional pot of money and we want to pick the top impact performer. I know that sounds really vague, but
Additional pot of money, you might want to contribute, but you want to know that people are doing what they say.
I mean, it comes back to there's no reason to complete this review if what you want out of the review is already being done in the reporting for the reason they received it. Is that correct? That's what I'm hearing from somebody that's not in local government right now. Yeah, Grace?
I'm in more favor of keeping it. I'm not willing to down the hill about this one, but I'm in favor of keeping it just because I think that this was a really big picture thing that took a lot of time. It was a lot of money,
The
a lot of
ARPA, yeah.
impact on the community. I agree that, this was part of our plan, and my understanding from the beginning was at the end of this time period, we were going to evaluate, we were going to have maybe presentations again.
Okay.
So I feel like it is somewhat what we're already doing, and also I kind of like just keeping that in mind as a really big picture idea in the next year or two. And I agree, not setting the precedent for future funding, but I think could also be helpful for some things that we do have and kind of tying back into our first one of
Okay.
community funding.
So just keeping that first part, complete a systematic review of the ARPA subrecipient programs. That's an action step, correct? All right, here's one. The next one said, that got a score of 5. Continue to fund community partners and projects to promote health and wellness while monitoring results and effectiveness. This feels very similar to the first one we did. Is that, I mean, it's a different category, but it's the same thing. You're funding, but now you're funding community partners and projects that promote health and wellness, not just community safety or violence. Are we keeping this but removing the monitoring results and effectiveness? Didn't we remove that from last one? Or just, what do you guys think? Keep it but modify the wording?
I think the close to the end wording was something along the lines of with continued program monitoring and evaluation, but that wasn't set in stone.
That sounds great, Will. Let's do that. What do you guys think?
So the last clause would be with continued program monitoring and evaluation.
There's a whole bunch of words here in terms of what I suggested, which is basically merging all of these continue to fund community partners. And here's why. We have the social service fund every year, and we're always looking, when we do that, we're looking for who are the targets, what are we doing? So we've been focusing a lot on youth lately. But I feel like if we kind of merge this and say these are our priorities, then we only need one action step, because that would be filled by the social service funding grant programs. So
The one issue, just based on the structure of the other levels, is it, I don't know where that would fall, where that action step would fall.
You're talking about merging 1 and 2?
I mean, because you're talking about, because this one also talked about domestic violence, family suffering, alcohol treatment.
Oh yeah, I just for
I guess you're right. That's just more detail of the health and wellness. Okay. Do you want to call out all those?
I think that's a question for
I've-
council. If we want to have those our objectives when we fund community partners.
There could be a very, very long list if you start listing everything that falls under community health and wellness. Yeah, and so if you think that's where the list stops and everybody agrees, then that's the new wording. But I have a feeling that there's always going to be something that is not listed.
Could we repeat the wording?
Oh, I think she had it in her comments.
Oh,
This is what she was talking about.
okay.
All of those.
Yeah.
I also, a lot of my comments were about having a broader category, so I agree with that and maybe not getting too specific. The one thing I will say though, like, our social service funding is meaningful, but it's not that much money. So I would prefer not to put everything saying that that's how we're gonna fund it. I understand that that causes some challenges, because we do need to think about where would that money come from, but $100,000, if we're then addressing alcohol treatment, domestic violence, and everything else, $300,000? Yeah, sorry, $300,000. It's $100,000. That was when it was consolidated with the township, but it's $100,000. That's not enough money to do everything that we're talking about.
So where are we going with this one?
So I agree with Mary Alice of keeping it broader, but I just would say, like, let's not pigeonhole it as being funded by social services funding, because there's, in my opinion, not enough money to do everything that we are trying to lump into this larger category.
Does that make
Full
sense?
disclosure, I work for an organization that receives a grant.
All right, so that's the second one. I'm going to talk about the third one because it looks unique. It's got a score of 5. It says create a citywide equity plan using GARE template guidance. Is that a priority?
It hasn't been.
Would you like it to be?
I don't know.
Okay.
We voted to use GARE. I don't know anybody in staff that even knows what GARE is.
Carla does. Boom. Elizabeth, boom.
But
Yeah.
Does the rest of the staff also go into the portals and do all this stuff? I know the city spent money to do this. So when you say citywide, are you talking about the city, just the offices, or are you talking about the city?
Well, I'm talking about the city offices because the equity plan would be operationalizing and let me see, I wrote it down. Operationalizing, integrating its racial equity into all of our routine decision-making processes. So it would encompass the city as a whole, as an entity, but it also is speaking to the community because this community are the ones who are going to access those services. And so we are making that commitment that we will have an equity lens and it'll be operationalized when people are accessing the services, so the community will know that. I hope I answered the question.
Kind of, sort of.
But the city does use GARE. I'm not the only
I
office
just
that
haven't
uses
heard
it.
anything about it in 3 years, so that's why my understanding is like, nobody says anything about, and we use GARE, we go to the GARE portals, and no one said anything about, and I remember when we voted to do that, to put the funds in. I haven't heard anything about it since.
Well, I know I utilize it, and I also know that IT, they utilize it. I don't know to what extent, because I put out a question when I was looking for answers or something of trying to figure out how to do assistive services. And one of my coworkers said, "Oh, I saw that you put out a call for recommendations or something." So it is being utilized.
Okay.
To what extent, I do not know, but I know that my office uses it daily.
And Carla, you're saying you have the interest capacity in your office to do that?
Well, there's interest because I know that equity has been on the minds of many of the council members, and a lot of the cities are moving towards developing an equity plan for their cities. And so I said that would be something that we could probably look at, because it's not just my office, it would be the entire city as the organization would be doing this. It wouldn't be my office building a plan for the city, it would be the city building a plan for the city.
What do we think?
I'm sorry.
We're good? Let's go with that as the third one for that area.
Okay.
All right. Since I'm the timekeeper up here, that was 49 minutes, and we've got through one section, so, all right. Want to keep moving on? All right, let's go down to we'll double back if we have time, or that might be for later discussion. Strategic area number 2, housing. 2.1, strategy, support housing security and equity. We have one that stands out with a 5.5, coordinate with housing and social service agencies to reduce homelessness. I mean, it's rated high, but it's also vague in description. Or unless you guys have more context to this than how it's written. Are you guys already doing this? Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, it does seem vague from the outside, but I think it's okay.
Is it good? It's good?
Yeah.
That's probably why you...
Easy one.
Okay. We have 2 other action step proposals under this 2.1. The second one, it's a lot lower than the threshold I was initially looking at, but we'll explore it. It says, coordinate with housing and social service agencies to reduce homelessness by supporting tenant-based rental assistance providers and providing new pilot programs that address gaps in services. That's a lot. What does that mean? What's that different from the first one? And the mic. There we go.
So it is different from the first one.
Okay.
So with this one, we do provide already funding to agencies that provide tenant-based rental assistance. I
Okay.
believe this one came out of a discussion about expanding that support and providing flexibility for agencies that want to develop new pilot programs to identify gaps in current rental assistance that's being provided. So one suggestion I had for wording was coordinate with housing and social service providers to reduce homelessness by providing new pilot programs and expanding existing programs. That was just an addition that I had to make it a little bit more general. And then I don't recommend that a specific dollar amount is tied to that, just because I think that would help keep it a little bit more flexible.
So so the second one is, you said expanding? Oh yeah.
Could we
Jay?
say something like continue and like prioritize filling in existing gaps or something like
Yeah, I
that?
think continue is a good addition there.
So does someone want to read that one?
So I would say continue to coordinate with housing and social service agencies to reduce homelessness by supporting tenant-based rental assistance providers in providing new pilot programs that address gaps in services and expanding existing programs. Is that too long?
Is that fine? James?
So the first item is literally the first part of that sentence.
The what? Yeah.
The first one that we said is okay without any detail. The second one is the first one plus detail.
No, that's what I was confused on.
So there may be other ways that we could do that. But
So tenant-based rental assistance doesn't target homeless individuals, so that is a difference between.
no, I understand that. We're talking about other pilot programs and other gaps, which would be part of what we're doing with number one.
I mean, you could write one that has is.
If we're going to keep one, we need to differentiate what it's focusing on versus the focus this one has, is what I'm asking.
Yeah. One is vague, two is very detailed. Chandra?
Well, since TBRA doesn't address like homelessness, could you cut that first part out and say continue to support tenant-based rental assistance providers?
Yeah.
And expand existing programs.
Yeah.
So cut that first part and just continue to.
Yep. Continue to, and then so support, not supporting, support tenant-based. There we go. That is, so there is one that talks about the homelessness, and then this is about the tenant-based assistance program, which is not just homelessness. It's okay. So there's the two. Sound good? Yep. Cruising along here. I love it. All right. 2.2. Improve housing quality. The first action step had a high rating. Provide targeted assistance for home rehabs and repair for seniors. Are you guys already doing that? And this sentence is good?
So will we say continue to provide?
I think do a lot of these fit under bigger things like our home plans and other stuff? I'm trying to look at Braden here. I don't know if a lot of these can fit under. I think last time we had to like complete the home art plan or something.
So this is ongoing every year. We use our HUD funding to provide a home rehab program for seniors, individuals with disabilities. We also have our roof repair program, which we're trying to complete by the end of next fiscal year because it uses ARPA funding, so that could be added to that to complete the ARPA-funded roof repair program for low-income households.
So I'm trying to think if the first and third, or maybe some others fit into something about prioritizing that in the existing plan.
I think it could be combined with the pursue funds to rehabilitate dilapidated homes.
So that's 1 and 3?
I think those could be combined.
So those are combined, and that could be wordsmithed into something? And if it doesn't happen right now, that's okay. But is 1 and 3 a good strategic goal the council wants to continue to work towards? All right. I'll assign. It's Braden, right? Braden and Will, you guys can wordsmith out. Something. And then obviously, unless someone else has a suggestion.
Isn't 4 kind of develop a plan program that provides funding for rehabilitation
Is
of older housing stock throughout the city?
that a little bit?
I actually had it.
Oh, there you go.
Is that also part of it?
I had a kind of different idea of that as far as the city thing about similar to enterprise zones, and also the comment about what would be the funding source. I think similar to enterprise zones, it's like a development tax break. Just if we say that we want city infill development, yet the suburban areas are the ones that have tax incentives to build houses on. So just saying, what does that mean as a city? If we say we want something, but we're actually developing something different. So I think that's kind of outside of HUD allocations.
So that is different. So we have 1 and 3 have become the first priority. The second one, do we want to move to the second one? It says pursue development of affordable rental and homeowner housing. What does the second one mean? Outside of the obvious words, what I just said. Like, pursue development. Are you guys developing? Pursue the development of affordable rental and homeowner housing. Is the city developing stuff?
Like woo developers.
Did I read that wrong?
It should be pursue developers maybe, not.
Or partner with or support? Like,
Because we do have some land.
you guys are not in the business
We're
of
not
doing.
building the houses.
There is city-owned property that we have partnerships and blah, blah, blah to.
Yeah. I mean, I would probably change that wording a little bit to partner with developers to generate affordable rental and homeowner housing.
That's a good idea.
I mean, are you partnering? Does that sound good?
Affordable housing.
Partner with developers.
Yeah, I would just always, like, it's just affordable, is it just affordable rental and homeowner housing? It's just affordable housing, right? Whether you're owner occupied or rental, that's down the line.
To increase affordable housing.
I like to increase or generate.
To increase?
Generate.
Yeah, I like generate.
Okay, so partner with developers to generate affordable housing. That's your number 2. Okay. Since we're doing so well, we'll stay on this one. Did we want to go down to the 4th item? Grace, you talked a little bit about that with the develop a plan/program that provides funding for rehabilitation of older housing stock throughout the city, similar to an enterprise zone. Does anybody have any comment on that? I know you explained it a little bit.
I'd like to understand what rehabilitation of older housing stock, like, what does that mean? I just want to understand, having been here and elsewhere, so I need to understand what the rehabilitation of older housing stock, what does that mean?
It's like almost like infill, but those are infill lots. But these we're actually talking about the existing structures.
That's what I'm wondering.
Carol, do you want to speak to this a little bit, or at least clarify
I do
that?
want to speak to it a little bit. I think, and Mary Alice is very keen on this, and Grace is keen on it. I believe we have a lot of substandard housing that's already existing that needs to be, brought up to code and so forth, and we don't incentivize that the way that we do new development through the enterprise zone program. So I think that's what this is driving at. The one thing that I would want to propose is that instead of saying develop a plan or program, that we explore. And the reason I say that is because the enterprise zone is labor intensive and from a staff standpoint, and I think before we develop a program, I think we need to know exactly what the demands of that might be. So that's why I would like to advocate for the word explore.
And when you talk about using the explore is feasible over the next couple of years, it might just be that's how far we move along of saying what are other cities doing to rehab their existing housing stock that might not be to the standard of to that acceptable standard. when my years past working for the city of Davenport, I think they had some program was called like Renew, but it was different from building new. It was renewing and incentivizing people buying older homes or homes that had kind of fallen on hard times, and whatever incentivizing to bring them up and remodel and all that. Yeah.
Can we, that one that's right under it, enhanced community development, housing inspectors, can that be added to this? That, the one above it?
Streamline enhanced housing services. Well, I don't even know. Oh, no, sorry. Enhanced community.
They're really very, very different.
Well, let's talk about the other one. Is it fine to change that word to explore, like Carol suggested, council?
Yes.
And then we want that to be a priority?
Yes.
All right. So you're at 3 priorities for that one. Do we want to move on or do it?
I do, yeah, the next one's important on here.
That's what the chief talked about.
Yeah, I'm just saying, if we're looking at things that are also going to reduce crime. I'm sorry. Oh, you're good. If we're also looking at things that are going to reduce crime, having the ability to, I'm sorry. Having the ability to go in and make sure our inspectors keep those rental properties up and do the home inspection and stuff will help, because you have to look at the existing, like when we're talking about root causes of crime, allowing your neighborhoods to continue to degrade is one thing that starts to fester, where people congregate, because now if I don't have the ability myself to say this needs to be fixed, and there's no one who's going to support bringing that up, then those neighborhoods just keep degrading, even though the people who are living there are asking for those things to be improved. So I think that's a very important one to keep.
Yeah. Do we want to have that as our forward under that?
Yep.
Anybody have any objection to that? Or at least want to speak on it?
Just a concern, I guess, while I agree with enforcement of code, I'm concerned that a landlord will refuse and we need to evict people. That's my own concern.
Any comment on that? I mean, obviously outlining those processes before, you're not just going through, one.
How frequent is that, Diane, where a landlord refuses?
Well, actually, we could have our community development services folks here, but this was my this was my goal.
Yeah.
I think we do need another housing inspector. We are to catch up on the backlog of housing. We have a rental registration and inspection ordinance, and the original intent was to have everybody on a 3 to 5 year cycle, and we're not on that. And we've seen severe decline in a lot of properties during and after COVID. So it doesn't happen that often. We need these inspections so people maintain our buildings to minimum standards.
You think we can get good compliance, or you don't know?
Do you guys have?
Yeah, if we don't check, right?
Isn't there eventually either an ordinance or a code that you start fining them financially if they're not participating? Okay.
To my knowledge, we've not had anybody evicted because of a code inspection.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I mean,
Because you're working with.
correct. We work with the property owners. Some of them will take a little bit more time than others, but in general, as long as they're making progress, the code allows us to work with them, and that's the ultimate goal is compliance. It's not getting somebody kicked out. It's not fining them. It's getting compliance. So. Yeah.
Do you guys? Just on a side note, do you have where if someone's in high compliance, they're inspected less? Or maybe you guys aren't there yet. I know it's like if your property's great, we're coming back every 5 years. If you're not, we're coming back every year, every 2 or 3.
So our rental registration program, yes, does allow, if we were to get too steep, right, it does allow it to skip over certain letters. Now, if they get an A, meaning we find no violations during the inspection, then we actually waive the rental registration fee. That's part of the rental registration program.
So you are incentivizing.
So, incentivizing them by giving them, a credit of, $65 for a single family the following year.
Okay.
So, so it's 1 year.
Sure.
So they basically get the bonus.
Okay. So there is programs. All right. Just on a side note from my previous experience with the city. All right. So let's move on. We got 4 areas under 2.2. I think that's really good. And we're also then finishing up housing. We are at 8:05. We want to keep moving forward?
Yes.
Whew, nice. All right. We're going to strategic area number 3, infrastructure. The first one, 3.1, improve quality of infrastructure assets. Now, we only have 2 action steps, and they are highly rated. Tim's excited about this, I think. So, the first one is the 6.0. I guess, we're moving forward with complete sanitary sewer and asset management plan by the end of 24?
Yes.
All right. And roadway asset management plan by the end of 25?
Yes.
Could we just ping that sanitary asset management plan to FY 25? And basically extend it 6 months. We're trying to get a couple more staff up in engineering to kind of ramp that up. Basically just delay the sanitary asset management. We may be done in calendar year 24, but.
You guys fine to add the FY? So that would.
FY 25.
Yeah.
Oh, so would they both say FY 25? Just for, should we just do that?
That gives us breath.
Is that okay? So both those just say FY 25. All right, so that one's good. The only other one was then had a 5.5 was review and adjust dedicated revenue streams for assets, beginning with local MFT.
Motor fuel tax.
Is that good?
Is this something just part of your plan? I guess I didn't understand what's the motivation.
What's the strategic?
So if you look, asset management summary that you guys see in the CIP. The asset management summary you guys see every year in the CIP tells you that we're constantly underfunding our infrastructure. So what that means is just everything just keeps declining, and it has for decades, and it'll continue for decades until we reach sustainable funding levels of this is the level of service we're comfortable with, that we're paying for, and that's what we're going to get. So the asset management plans kind of basically develop a plan for forever, kind of planning for how we should manage these things. And then out of the asset management plan, well, conversation is very similar to stormwater asset management plan. We completed it, and we came to you guys to talk about, we have this funding gap to meet a compromise plan coming out of this. And so right now the strategy is the next 5 years, we're going to increase the stormwater utility fund, and then after that, we're going to have a better handle on what that capital gap is. The intention is kind of to do that with other assets just the same way. So when the roadway asset management plan, the reason we target LMFT is it's transportation infrastructure is the largest deficit. We're probably funded at about 20% of what I theoretically think sustainable would be. So that's the one. That's why we suggested target that. And if you look at the market on locomotive fuel tax, Champaign, Urbana, Savoy are all lower than a lot of regional people. Bloomington, Normal are 8 cents, Worcester 5 cents. Danville was over 10 cents. Decatur combined 8 or 9 cents. I think our intention is probably to take a step, because motor fuel tax, hypothetically over the next 10 years, we're either going to have to keep hiking it up because EVs are going to drive down the revenue of that, or we're going to have to find alternative funding. So while motor fuel tax is relevant, our suggestion is target that first and get it bolstered. 5 to 10 years, we're going to have to be looking for alternative sources anyways like this. So.
Thanks. Sounds good. I'm down.
So we're good? That's the second one for that area. 2 for 2. All right, moving to 3.2. Increase investments in infrastructure quality. Sorry. So 3.2. This one was a 6.0. The first one was complete the 10 EQL projects by the end of, now it says CY. Is that calendar year? Is that why? Okay. Yeah. CY 24 and initiate second round by the end of calendar year 25. That's good? That's a 6.0?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. The second one would be, it's got a scoring of 5. Prioritize maintaining staffing for CD grants coordinator position to pursue public infrastructure grants.
Does it need to be expand or increase too? I definitely want to maintain Braden, but we also want to keep more, right?
Brayden, do you have any comment on this? Prioritize maintaining staffing.
And hiring staff, like
Expanding
hiring
staff
staff.
is what we need to do.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah.
We still have a vacant position in we should have money, we have two right now.
That's why I said prioritize ensuring adequate staffing for CD and
Yeah.
don't pursue public infrastructure grants. Because even if we fill the position that's already vacant, if we're talking about going under those big federal grants, we still need more people.
Prioritize.
So I would be hesitant to put like we just need one more. Because like if we're talking about going after those big federal grants, you're going to need someone, in my opinion, just for that. But yeah, Braden's expert.
The third grants position was originally added to provide expanded capacity to help with infrastructure grants. So I think that's why that is reflected in here.
So we say, I like that wording, prioritize pursuing adequate staff for CD grants.
Ensuring. It says ensuring.
Oh, ensuring. Prioritize ensuring adequate.
It's in the comments.
And we do work very closely with RPC, and they help, and MTD. So a lot of our really large federal infrastructure grants have come with the assistance of both RPC and MTD. So we do expand our staff that way too.
I'm down with the comments wording there.
Priorities, okay. So we're gonna keep that one and use the wording from the comments? Okay. All right, so we do have a couple more underneath this that did score 4 and higher. The next one is incorporate equity lens into priorities evaluation. Do we know what that means?
My question was, is that already completed in all of our stuff? I think we could argue that that's completed.
Probably not through everything, but that's basically progressively continuing through assets. We've done roadways, we've done sidewalks, we'll continue to try and, the EQL is kind of our pilot program to kind of test like what equity standards make sense and to try to incorporate permanently. So that has helped inform some of those decisions.
Is it operational and continuing to move forward internally?
Yes.
Is it fine to leave then off?
Yeah, they crossed off with a smiley face because they already did a lot of stuff.
It's not a bad thing. All right. The fourth one down there, because it did score 4, it says expand access and opportunity for community input in permits and zoning. Add an informational public hearing.
This was,
I just have a comment on it. I'll give it to you afterwards, but I have a comment on this. Just the idea of expanding community engagement. I think there's a bigger question in there. It's how, because community engagement as a whole is super inefficient with staff time, and we get, the stormwater utility fee. We put a ton of time into community engagement. We got 7% response. So to me, does it make more sense if you're going to continue with an action step on this to promote advancements in our community engagement capabilities?
no, I think this is actually a really specific item. This is adding an additional public hearing in before the official ones. So something I did email in some of my explanations and mentioned things recently, like the Hope Village and the storage units and things. There have been times where community has come with a petition to the meeting, the first public hearing, and they have a signed petition and they want it to cause a supermajority, but by then it's too late. It needs to be in before the first time they've ever heard about it publicly. This is something I've talked with some staff about. I think Carol had mentioned that there's other places that have done this, so it's just adding an informational step and then maybe the official public hearing so that the public has time if they did want to have an official protest petition, because in the current system there's not really feasible room to do that.
And also, I'll defer to let a council member go first.
I mean, I would agree, but also that seems like an operational thing, like to put in a standard operating procedure versus our goals.
That might be the whole procedures of the, like, ZBA and.
If I could note, yeah, a lot of this is operational, and just as an example, if it wasn't known that there were protest procedures, that's as simple as when we first put out the public notice about it, we include one of those procedures. So things like that are things we've already discussed. Also, there have been, actually, there was a testament related to communities as an example, that there must be a neighborhood meeting. So there's more things we can do, but I think that initial notice needs to be more informative. That's a really easy step.
Is it more about educating or raising the awareness of the processes involved with these? I mean, it sounds like there's potentially tweaks, and I know Grace speaks to a specific example. I think I was even at that meeting with the storage units. But I mean, maybe, I don't know if that's, the strategic goal of that potentially lands in this plan is how do we make people more aware? I mean, again, you can only give them so much. They eventually got to do something.
So my thought on this is I think that inserting an informational stage before a big zoning, should be written somewhere. It should be in perhaps a zoning ordinance, but it has to be procedurally written down somewhere. And the reason I say this is because years ago I remember being concerned that there wasn't a neighborhood meeting, and staff told me, it wasn't Kevin, staff told me, well, we suggested that they do, but they are not mandated to do it. And so with that in mind, I do think that for some of these things, we should have written down that an informational meeting is required.
Internally, are you reviewing and revising your processes or ordinances as far as public, either public input or what is the process? And that might be internal. I don't know if that still falls on that goal. James?
Yeah, I think from a council goal standpoint, I think it's worthwhile for the council to understand the process of how these things operate, so that we can make sure that something that's going on in our ward from the beginning, that we're alerted to it, right? Because I can tell you that many of these things, I found out about it when it's like hitting the meeting.
Hitting the agenda and stuff, yeah.
As opposed to earlier on. Now, I would assume someone would say, well, if you watch the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting agendas, and if you watch, you would be on top of that. But from a standpoint of how us as council are engaged in that process, and when those notices go out, do we get a copy of the notice for things that happen in our ward? I don't think a lot of things like this may have happened in my ward, so I don't know if we're triggered, because we can drive communication in our particular wards. To have that happen earlier on, I do agree that an information step that's official, that's part of the process, is important. But I think the reason why I like this as a council goal is I think council has to be more proactive in this rather than reactive. And we may need help with that.
Yeah.
We may need support from the procedure as well, but that's why I think it's important.
One, completely agree, and that's also easy for us to involve the council member earlier in the process. We should know our agenda in that first week, and then we have to take that first week to make sure it's actually a valid application. As soon as we're getting ready to go public, we can let you know. I wanted to note that there's a bigger picture piece for something like this kind of strategic planning.
Yeah.
So ideally, we pre-sort what's better for a public hearing and what is already kind of predetermined that it works in a certain area, therefore, it could be quite right, doesn't involve a lot of controversy and wouldn't necessarily need the additional meetings or hearings. So that means we're completing our comprehensive plan right now. That is something where we state our values, and usually that leads to a zoning ordinance rewrite. In the zoning ordinance rewrite, that's where we resort. If you look at some of the controversial ones that we just had, it's because it maybe didn't make sense how the uses were sorted in the districts in the first place and how they were allowed. So I wanted to just note that bigger picture is what fits into, I think, this planning. And then, of course, we have some operational pieces that we can take care of right away.
I would suggest not with maybe in the wording, it already says what the additional action is, which was adding a public hearing. It would, if you're going to put it as your goal, maybe it's reviewing and potentially revising informational processes and procedures. I think you probably already just said that. I apologize if I'm repeating, but yet not having it say we're going to automatically add that, and that could be it. Or I apologize. What's your name again? Kim. I'm sorry. As Kim stated, it might be already outcomes based on the different uses. Or does that make sense? I think I just muddled that.
I don't know where we're left off. I'm down to still keep it. I don't know where we are.
Are we?
But it's more than
I've
just.
written a rewrite.
Ooh.
So.
Okay, yep.
Okay, we got a mic for you on the. Boom. The back row is the speakers. Where is it from?
Okay, this is my attempt to capture what I heard. Develop revisions to the zoning ordinance to improve procedures that enhance public notice and ensure appropriate protest procedures.
Yeah, that's
Great. You saved that one. You pass it along to Will. Those aren't mine. I was like, all right.
You can do a mic drop now.
Yeah. Well, wait, not yet. Don't break the mic. All right. So let's move on. We got 3 there. Let's move on to 3.3, which was expand sustainable infrastructure within the community. We good to keep going? All right, we'll keep going. We'll at least get through 3 and then I'll ask you again. All right. So 3.3. So the first action step, we had 2. The first 2 had really high scoring. Evaluate practicality and financial feasibility for sustainability. That's a lot of abilities. For improvements to city facility capital projects, specifically geothermal at the fire station and solar at Public Works. I'll let Will you wordsmith that later.
Say, thoughts, questions being, I would consider this largely done by having geothermal in the base bid for fire station construction, right?
Okay.
And would also like the ideas that Chris has been mentioning about a 10% minority equity hiring goal for construction. As kind of shift from that, since we already have geothermal as the base bid in there.
That come back from the last section for equity rather than sustainability.
Would that go back to the EQL?
It's in 4.1,
It's in
Yeah, I was going to say,
4.1?
under support local business, it's the first one. It's already there.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I think they go together for sure. That is there, but we could specifically state fire station construction. Either just add that to the 4.1 and remove this one.
This is for sustainability. This is sustainability.
We're on 3.3.
Yeah. So
Grace is talking about that the geothermal at the fire station's already, that's happened, right? Or that's in your bid?
Pending a budget amendment.
Pending a budget amendment. And we talk, and solar at Public Works.
Pending budget amendment.
So these things are very, I mean, I guess that's the example. I mean, if you take away the examples, is evaluate practicality and financial feasibility for sustainable improvements to city facilities, period.
Yep.
I mean, it's almost like anytime there is major projects in any of your city facilities, is there you can use whatever green initiative. Can we go geo on this addition? Can we go solar? Is there some way to do something else? Is that what, if we put the period after, or we can call it city facility capital projects, you put the period there, that's still valid for your guys' goal? Nice. I think that was just the examples was confusing me. All right, number 2, promote green stormwater management by revising the stormwater utility credits and incentive manual. Yes? All right. Well, it falls off a little bit. Do we want to talk about any of those others that were below that line? We talked about food scrapping. Is there anybody that?
Yeah. Sorry,
Okay.
these are my passion points.
Okay.
Yes, I'm really passionate about supporting food scrap composting. This was also in the email that I sent out earlier in the process explaining some of these new ones. We have grant money to leverage. There's already pilot stuff going. Scott had some great ideas about maybe looking into leveraging some of that stuff with RFPs. Maybe looking if it could fit into U-Cycle. I think there's lots of ways that the city could support food scrap composting and currently is not, besides the LRC space and staff. The environmental projects is already in the budget. I think we really need this in here because apparently we need to approve it and agree on it again before we can do it. We already approved this, have money in the budget, so I'm really happy about having that in there. My suggestion was to create and implement a grant program for community environmental projects. Again, we already approved this in the budget. The next one, I do want to keep implement a carry-out bag fee. I think it's kind of separate from supporting household hazardous waste. And then lastly, I think the EV infrastructure, we've already explored that without much luck. I think we could pivot that, focus on trees. Scott has great ideas about completing our urban canopy and adding some arborist staff to maintain any new trees that we want to have, because that's a big gap in the system. And we'll propose even put a number, like a FTE arborist addition or whatever people think is appropriate.
So that last part with the trees, that wasn't even on here, right?
The last one says urban orchards, so it would be swap.
Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Not the EV infrastructure. I didn't. Sorry.
Yeah, so
My
that's why
apologies. I
Get
didn't.
rid of EV and focus on urban trees.
So that's 1, 2, 3. So that's 4 new initiatives beyond the 2 for this area. We're going to need some comment on that.
What 4 new? Those are all.
Well, those 4. So that would be 6. You would have 6 in that whole area. It's your plan, but I'm just saying as we kind of try to keep this and condense this.
I would propose if we need to get rid of some, get rid of the first one. To me, that seems like a kind of like, whenever we do stuff, keep this in mind. Versus, I think some of these others are more specific action items and things that are already budgeted.
Sure.
I think the first one is a guiding principle in the facilities development, and longer term, it has the most impact, financially and environmentally. I think these 4 things are all nice, but I don't think I would put all 4 of these in the plan. I would like to look around the council and see, which of these, we could do a straw poll on each of these, on how many people support having it in our strategic plan of what we're going to accomplish, and live with the straw poll on each of them.
Out of the ones that Grace just talked about, I wanted to draw attention to the urban canopy in that we are a tree city. We have been down arborists for a long time. I know that there's like a whole rating system in terms of how dangerous a tree is, and I think we're only doing 7 and up right now, it goes to 10. So if I was going to prioritize our environment and where to invest those funds, I think it's appropriate that we ensure that our urban canopy is healthy, and those are city trees. So that's my vote.
My only concern with trying to fit these in a box with a certain number, I'm okay with that. My concern is that, again, a lot of these things we've already discussed and approved in various ways, and then it feels like there's a holdup to say, well, now we have to talk about it and approve it in the goals. So I'm concerned that if one of these doesn't fit in the goals because it doesn't fit, although it has approval, that's going to mean, well, it's not in the goals, so we're not going to do it. That's my concern with losing some of these.
That later on it might get pushed to the side.
Yes, because I think a lot of these have already been kind of delayed in saying, well, we need to talk about it in council goals, even though some of these things have already been approved in the
Okay.
budget, et
Yeah.
cetera.
I've never heard of the food scrap thing.
Support food scrap.
I haven't been here past month. Did that happen past month? Food scrap?
That pilot project's been going on for a year or 2. This is a goal I added earlier in this conversation months ago. Also was in the follow-up email clarifying some of the new goals that I added.
So this is I'm just saying at the beginning of the goal thing, I don't recall hearing anything about food scraps. Or, not that I'm against it, I just don't recall hearing anything about it. So, I think that's something when we're talking about that kind of thing, we're talking about food waste and composting that may be something that you might want to try to get the restaurant community to do. First, I don't know how that would be paid for. Myself, food scrap waste is the garbage can I recycle. So anything that's wet goes into the separate receptacle. So that's what I guess I need to understand. Are you asking the residents to do this, or what is the goal?
Sure, it's so hard. I actually love so much to talk about compost, and I'm going to try and cut myself off. The pilot program is already targeting pre-consumer commercial food waste. So that's the grocery stores and restaurants, their back event stuff in the kitchen, which is some of the biggest volume, so that you can get to an economy of scale, so that eventually it could be economically feasible to do residential curbside, because you have to get a bigger kind of starting volume first. So that is why we're targeting that commercial stuff. And that's already been going on for a year or two.
Okay.
We're going to take it before I start talking about compost more.
Well, so as a group, as a council group, you guys just have to decide whether these are the priorities that you'll specifically call out, as Grace was pointing out, or is it not? Is it that we had Mary Alice talked about potentially having one that addresses arborist funding or the tree health? It's your
Last
plan.
year, the council set aside $100,000 for environmental grants, so it's kind of similar to our social service grant program, but I understood the idea would be to focus on funding environmental groups in the community. Is that correct? And we haven't yet developed the actual process for allocating the money, for spending the money that's been allocated. So that should be probably the top priority on this list here, is to get that particular process underway. The funding has been identified.
So is that the grants program? Is that the Create Grants program?
Yes. And
So it's not, have you created it?
No.
So you have funding for it or pending funding?
No, it's
We have funding.
Oh.
It's in the budget, so that's why I would recommend create and implement a grant program for community environmental projects. And I agree, and I had kind of started down that path, and then I was told that we need to stop working on that progress for drafting something to bring to council so that we can talk about it here at goals. So then if it doesn't get on goals, we're just going to be a little frustrated that it's been held up so it could get approved again, and then it's still not on there.
Do we have a vote for that being then the third priority? Do we approve that?
Yes.
So the third one that we're seeing is create a grants program for. Okay.
I was just going to say, this does have cascading effects if we're enhancing grants management divisions inclusion for infrastructure grants. Federal, their bandwidth is limited. We just have the second grants position backfilled that we've been waiting. So part of it, I would say, is because we haven't had to, we had one person for a long time. Thanks, Brady. Now we have two. That's awesome. But then be considerate of, at some point we have to talk about, like, okay, we got the second grants person. What are we spending their time on? Is it going to prioritize? I'm just speaking because we had the infrastructure grant in the last section versus this $100,000 grant program versus all the other housing programs that are going on. If we can't do it all, does the $100,000 environmental grant program trump infrastructure, to trump other ongoing home grant programs, things like that? Just to be considerate. Like, we're forced to prioritize because we typically can't do it all.
We were just seeking additional guidance from council because we will prioritize based on what council, the discussion on the process and what that looks like. So that was kind of the reason for the pause, just until council is able to outline what they want that process to look like and who's handling it and what they want us to develop.
Do you feel like your office has the ability to do this without sacrificing something major, or would you be?
It's a little bit difficult to answer. We have been filling
from within, so our overall vacancies are about the same. But with guidance, with programs, the guidance is helpful, but if something that is extra, the extra capacity is difficult. A lot of things come our way that have been unanticipated in the last few years that we have absorbed. So each year, we know what we've got, and it grows, so that's one thing we need to be able to build capacity for the unexpected as well. So not necessarily, so.
Yeah, that's just, I thought that this was a feasible option. I think we met 6 months ago or so earlier on to talk about it. I thought that, don't you have said that that's something feasible and trying to acknowledge that it's not something extra I'm trying to put on your plate and something I'm willing to help with along the way also. Putting together a search committee, and I thought my impression there was that it's would be something feasible and not overly burdensome.
One more thing also.
Yeah. Well, for
We've agreed that this should be on the list.
yeah,
So we
the number
can
3,
work on that
the
going
grants. Yeah,
forward. It's the other things that, how many of these things are we actually?
you're talking about the additional one, the food scrap,
Or
and
are we going to move on, because we've got more than 2
yeah.
for this section?
I was just about to suggest that you have 3. Again, this is not final. But for the sake of it, we have a whole 4th section. I appreciate that. And for the sake of time, I would. We have the 3 for that area for 3.3. I would move on to the 4th area. Is that fine? I agree. Let's do it. All right. We good to go here? All right. So the 4th area is it got renamed. I remember it was from economic recovery. Now it's economic health, and we have 4 strategies. This one gets a little. There's a lot going on here. We got a lot of variance here, but let's first take the first one, which was 4.1: support local businesses. We have the first one is a 4.5. It says enhance the Champaign Diversity Advancement Program to include more Urbana, minority, veteran, women-owned businesses by adopting a procurement policy that sets participatory percentage goals of all Urbana city contracts. Good? No. We got a no from the staff. There we go. Is that just yeah? Please explain the questions you have, Carol.
Okay. The original, this is an adaptation of a prior action item. So the original action item was enhance the Champaign Diversity Advancement Program to include more Urbana, veteran, and women-owned businesses. That was the original.
Okay.
So the idea was we want to get more local businesses on the list to qualify for this program that we were promoting.
Yep.
So, but CDAP is not locally, it doesn't have, it's not a local, it's local in the sense that it was originated in Champaign, but the people that are on the list can be from anywhere in the country because it's focused on minority, women-owned, veteran-owned, okay? It's not geographic specific. So the way this is worded now is to include more Urbana, minority, veteran, and women-owned businesses by adopting a procurement policy that sets participatory percentage goals on all Urbana city contracts. By keeping Urbana in there as a qualifier, it suggests that we're now adding a local element to it, which if we are, then that makes it really problematic when you're setting participatory goals. So I just want to know what's the intent, because the program in Champaign has now shifted to emphasizing small and local more so than minority, women-owned, veteran-owned. So I think there's exploration that needs to happen here before we set this action item.
So it sounds like you could almost just remove the word Urbana or could put in local. And I think there's lots of discussion to have on this that we can probably have later when we're adopting the whole procurement policy. But if we carefully changed or got rid of the word Urbana, would that make it pass your radar there?
I mean, that section is support local businesses.
Well, that's a good point. But I think you can just, it would be easier, I think, to say what you want to what your goal is, who are you targeting? Just take the CDAP reference out of there and say, what are you trying to promote? Are you trying to promote local? Are you trying to promote small? Are you trying to promote minority? Which is it? And just say that in there. So by adopting a procurement policy that sets participatory percentage goals in all Urbana City contracts for what? Just be more
Is it for just local and not qualifying the minority, veteran, and women-owned? I mean, that's going back to the strategy level where it's 4.1 says support local businesses.
I would think it's like supporting local and small and like union contractors that are local and small. So I just want to put that there, or put that out there to consider like having Urbana City contracts support our local unions as well. And I don't know how that all plays into it.
I think the Venn diagram that has local and small and union for the kinds of things that we procure, that intersection point is really tiny.
Well, I mean, it could be like the attempt to, or as best as, it may not be exact all the time, but like, as best.
So what I'm seeing here in this is really two things. So I'm going to just propose that we say adopting a procurement policy that sets aspirational percentage goals for local business. Is it local?
Well, on Urbana contracts.
On Urbana City contracts.
Minority.
I was just going to put local, but.
I'll let Tim speak.
The issue that I know that we always have is there's such a variance in the number of businesses and the percentage of people who are minority, women, and veteran-owned. Sometimes you won't have anybody. Sometimes you'll have 5.
You're talking about like in a specific industries.
Yeah,
You're trying to
exactly.
recruit
Very
this sort of business.
Yeah.
We got nobody that fits that. You might have one where you're like, we got a lot.
Right.
Okay.
So that's why I was just trying to prioritize local businesses in our city contracts.
Okay. Tim, what was your comment?
It's more of the administration of this stuff. So historically, this is a huge challenge that nobody solved. The way that I've seen people do this is because you don't know who's going to be doing what industry for what contracts, is you standardize something more like, we authorize awarding contracts to local bidders that are within 5% of the low bids. We authorize awarding to minority, women-owned, disadvantaged small businesses that are within 10% of the low competitive bids. And then that takes some things out of there where it's like, okay, we did a competitive bid. This person is a local minority-owned business. They're within 8% of the low bid. We're going to pay up because it's worth that value to us. Because
You have the authorization to.
You have these very complex challenges of ever getting that. And what I would tell you is right now, we couldn't report to you what we're actually doing business on right now. Like we couldn't tell you the percentage of all the contracts we do, we know that we're doing X percentage with each of these things. We've got a certification program that runs, but it doesn't work. To my knowledge, we're not quantifying that towards our contractual obligations to people to say, we know we're doing this percentage. Now, we did one example for you guys, I think, during the capital improvement plan to talk about our professional services, because we tracked it and made a point to it, and we awarded to 14% in that category. But to me, it's the quandary is how do you actually implement something that's meaningful and not just aspirational.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna try a substitution maybe, because there's more to explore, right? And something that maybe builds on what Tim was just saying. I don't even have all the words written down yet, but prepare a resolution for the council to consider that enhances procurement opportunities for local, small, union-owned, minority-owned, all the people that we want to help, that enhances opportunities for them. And then we can put a resolution together that gives some authorizations for the kinds of things that Tim was talking about. Then Elizabeth has some.
So I happen to have written a local preference ordinance in another job. We would have to be very deliberate about how we define it, but that would have to be done in an ordinance because it's going to affect how we award bids, and so it's a little more complicated. But
It's a,
I'm changing the ordinance, but basically that we would, I mean, we'll have to come up with some words for you guys to finally vote on and stuff, but that we would then, the action item would be for us to develop something for you to consider that accomplishes what we think you want to accomplish within a sort of a framework that Tim just described.
I mean, so for the sake of your goal is, I'm not going to wordsmith, it's you're exploring revising an ordinance that supports and incentivizes, or gives whatever you're talking. You're exploring revising your ordinance that addresses local, minority, whatever wording there. But that's the strategic goal. You're going to explore that because what does that look like? We don't know the details. You don't know the time frame on it, so you're going to explore that and see where that goes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think we have a lot more conversation ahead of time. Instead of trying to list all things,
Yeah.
what could we call it? Just an equity-focused procurement policy? So like to create an ordinance.
So explore. Are you revising your ordinance?
No,
Or you're creating?
It's not revising.
Oh, you're creating then an ordinance.
Well, you'd
Okay.
be amending the code. Probably be in the code.
There's lots of things that I'd probably touch.
So we're picking this one, and we'll wordsmith that. That's an important one, right? We want to do this because you're going to do something for these local businesses in some form, right? That's one.
Yes, I think create equity-focused procurement policy.
It's not
for
just
city
equity.
contract. It's what? It's
If we're
not-
talking about local, it's not just equity.
Yes, equity doesn't quite get it.
Equity and local business focused? Yeah. Equity and local.
I think we duly. You got all those words right. Well, we're going to wordsmith that one, but I think we all know what we want to get to. It's just how do we wordsmith that? But that's the priority, is giving some flexibility, like what Tim really explained it, where you have this authorization that if that's the goal, you can award not just the lowest bidder, but there's other criteria.
I just wanted to add,
Yeah.
think, I heard the word explore, I think create is more appropriate.
That's fine. Yeah, that was my word. And you.
Versus we actually wanted to create.
All right. Okay.
All right, good.
All right. The second one, it says create a strategic plan to locally address challenges identified in the 2023 Illinois State Black Business Survey. Is that, you guys have that? You guys know that?
No.
You don't have it? Is it coming?
To the mic.
Oh.
Yeah, in the comments, it didn't sound like the council was aware of some of the findings of the survey, and I can certainly provide that link to it. This survey was conducted by the Department of Economic Opportunity, and it was the minority office of that group. The survey started, they launched it in December of 21, so it took place during COVID. It wasn't finished until February of 23, so just this past year. It wasn't until August that they then provided the findings to everyone. And so I do have a copy of the survey, or a PDF that I link that I can send it to you. A couple of things that just to point out from that might help in this discussion is they talked about the biggest challenges, or identified that was one of the main questions, is what is the biggest challenge for these types of businesses, and it was financing. That was their biggest challenge of all. And then COVID, of course, was listed there because this happened during COVID. So just as a point of reference, the council since this time, or during this time, had approved the underwriting of Justine Peterson. So that's we've already made a step in that regard that the council has. The other thing that was brought out was the challenges for businesses that are already in operation. So the financing part was how to get started, and then those that are in operation was implementing technology, marketing their products, attracting customers, and diversifying their customer base. One of that last one had to do with where they have their business located is sometime in a depressed area, so you need to diversify your customers that you're going after. So that was another thing that was brought up. And then opportunities for training. They wanted marketing, accounting, and development, which included funding and promoting their businesses. So again, Justine Peterson does a couple of those things. One, the funding, of course, and the other is helping them in that initial training, like putting their business plan together, what kind of things they need. Similar to the services of the SBDC also fits that. The EDC, the Champaign County EDC, does provide marketing training. They host free webinars with Clarin Marketing on promoting that. One of the things that I think that can be a better job for everyone is getting the word out on these different resources that are available. So to address just that survey, I think there's issues that we already know about. I don't know that we need a plan specific for that, but those are just some comments that have come up, and I can send that to you so you can get better educated on the survey itself.
And you're down with making a strategic plan in response to it?
Say that again.
And you're interested in making the strategic plan in response to it?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's in response to this, but this is a statewide survey, and granted, I think we have similar issues. But I think parts of it have already been accomplished with Justine Peterson, et cetera. So I think it's, maybe I need to use that word explore again, but I think that we still need to investigate, you know, what are some of the missing components that we don't have here that we're not providing.
Can we just say create a process? Strategic planning is pretty intense.
Yeah. I mean, in essence,
are evaluating the areas that are not being fulfilled by our community. Yeah, something like that, because I think the funding component we do have, like I said, some of the training is there. I think we need to maybe explore, you know, what isn't being fulfilled in our community.
You're more reviewing and creating a process to potentially, you know, I mean, outside of not seeing all of it or knowing it, that could also be a big, I mean, you've obviously already outlined a lot. I'm not sure about the wording on this one.
Well, I was thinking about creating a process or a rubric or something. I recall a few years back that black gentleman opened a restaurant in Lincoln Square, didn't succeed. But from the beginning, and I didn't say this to him at first, I didn't think it would succeed because he didn't even have a menu. And having been a waiter, a server, it was like, sweetie, everybody needs a menu. But, you know, just and it's like he just did not know the steps as to try to make his business right. And so even something like that, just, you know, if you're opening this type of business, not just location helps. You said a lot of, you know, black businesses are in depressed areas. His location was in Lincoln Square, and not necessarily, I wouldn't call it necessarily depressed, maybe not a lot of traffic. So
I think for the sake of time,
I'm just saying, it seems like
Yeah.
there's steps.
Is this-
a pamphlet or
Yeah.
something like that, instruction.
is this one we're keeping and we're wordsmithing differently?
It'd be
Yes.
good. Now that I understand what you're talking about.
I would fit perfect versus a strategic plan. I would go down the route of something that just enhances that information, some kind of a matrix, something that you were headed towards. You know,
Okay.
Something that helps us to communicate better the resources that are already out there versus recreating something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we think that we can wordsmith that, but is that the second one, is that fine? All right. The third one I'm going to just bring up, but we're not going to spend too much time on it because it is pretty finite. It says issue at least 2 RFPs for downtown city-owned sites for housing developments. Is that something you guys want to do?
Those are in progress. One is a lot closer than the other, and I think one of the questions that maybe the council members wanted to discuss in another format, we're going to discuss this as well as what's in the RFP. Is there a focus on housing like the previous council goals, or is it broader for that RFP?
Like mixed use and all that?
Right, so like separately, we'll be discussing the details of that, but that might be what this is alluding to.
Do you guys want to leave that in your plan about these downtown RFPs, downtown city-owned?
Yeah, I think it's very important to the downtown area.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned, we haven't decided that that's going to be housing, it's just my hang-up. And it sounds like you're saying it's still open to being multi-use or something, is that right?
That's the way it's written, is that it's open, but there's a preference for housing.
And whose preference? That's just my concern, is that we haven't.
Right here, 5 people. 5 people voted for that.
Oh, and this is our process about that, right here, right now?
Well, it's certainly part of it, and it was in the prior set of council goals.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Housing downtown.
So is that, if that's doing housing, I guess, is that the local business, or is that supposed to, should that be under housing? Man, for me, it's sort of wrenching at this laid out.
The reason why it was under support local businesses, because housing downtown puts people downtown, patronize local businesses downtown. That's how it got there in the first place.
Part of our downtown is
Okay, yeah. People there? All right. Let's, for our conversation, let's move on to 4.2, which was enhance employment opportunities in Urbana. The first one had a rating of a 4.5. It said, collaborate with Parkland College, RPC, and other partners to create workforce development scholarships for low-income Urbana residents focusing on trades and hospitality industry. Anybody want to speak to that? Does that sound good?
Collaborating with Parkland, they have their own tax base.
I think that the question that council had in the comments was funding, how do scholarships get funded?
Okay. Now, I'm done.
Yeah.
If we want a preference for Urbana residents in it, then we're going to have to collaborate with Parkland.
Okay.
They're not going to do that for us. They're going to do it for the whole region unless we collaborate with them.
I just wanted to understand it.
Yeah. Is it good? All right, that's one. It kind of falls off in the scoring down to a 2 for that second one. Do we want to talk about that one? Collaborate with IFSI and other entities to create workforce development opportunities for urban residents in the field of public safety. Does that
IFSI and
collaborate with IF? Is that one that you? Do you want to table that for now? All right. Moving on to 4.3. Recruit new businesses and industries. So the first one we had was scored a 5. Create an incentive package and recruit a grocery store to Northwest Urbana. I've heard this before. Is this yours, Charisse?
Yeah.
Still. I'm connecting with you. I'm like, yeah, I don't know. All right. Is that still valid that you guys need to somehow figure out?
The efforts are ongoing and continuous.
Yeah, it's a high priority.
Yeah. Okay.
We just lost a tool, and one of them was the grocery store initiative by the Governor Pritzker. We found out that you can't, grocers that have more than 5 stores in Illinois aren't eligible. So it's really for
startup or
small grocers.
real local.
Basically, okay. So
Like
So like the Aldi's, the DG, those that we've been recording, they're not eligible because they have more than 5 stores in Illinois.
Okay, since I'm not trying to contradict you. I'm thinking, because I heard this story on NPR, because Cairo, Illinois has no grocery store. They're starting a co-op.
Yes, those are
And so I
eligible.
think that's what he's trying to push.
The co-ops, city-owned grocer is eligible, but like the ones that we were talking about, the full grocers aren't eligible.
Well, that doesn't really help.
Even though it's in the food desert. So
All right.
that's just to say we need to come up with something.
Yeah.
else
So
as a-
that one's moving forward.
That doesn't really help my ward at all.
All right. I'm gonna jump down, because of the scoring, I'm gonna jump down to 4.4, create tourist and entertainment district. We had two that kind of floated to the top there. The first one was direct UC visitors to downtown Urbana with signage at Lincoln and Green.
We're gonna take turns holding signs up.
You've just added the how to this, I like that. So are you guys exploring that, and you think that's valid to explore? Council?
Yes, go.
All right.
Is this, yeah, I wasn't sure where this came from. I wasn't sure if this was part of an existing plan or just somebody threw it out there and everyone was like, sounds good.
It was originally part, I don't know who put it in, but it was originally part of MCOR, and then it got value engineered out of it.
Okay.
So do you guys think that's
Signage was also in the public realm study out of that. That was one of the recommendations.
okay? Yeah. All right. Second one, implement recommendations of downtown public realm study.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of things and some are problematic and not feasible and, yeah.
Whenever I only speak this from experience of, with other entities. When it's really broad and it's like there's a study, let's implement what they said, depending on the.
This was pretty specific.
Oh, yes. We always like new people to the mic.
Yeah, I mean, so the public realm study does have a bunch of, I call them options. So they're not like you should do this, and this. It's you could do this, and
Yeah.
this. So I would suggest that we say implement selected recommendations for the downtown public realm study. I'm done.
Oh, nice. Selected.
Yep. And it still exists, that's important because there's a lot of drama the last time. So
Not-
I think that word would help with a lot of drama there. We had Tim in the back, I don't know who's got.
Oh,
you got
yeah.
it?
On that part, but I just, for the signage at Lincoln, we've got a corridor study in the south section of that that's basically initiating now, and that also looks at intersection redesigns and things like that. So I just want to be considerate that if the south corridor changes that may start to have effects on the north corridor, and where that sign is, you don't want to put it in and then pull it out because we're doing an intersection modification. Which that could be further down the line.
All right. If we stop right there, you have 29 action steps across the entire board.
But don't cheat that kind of.
Is there more? Yeah.
Because we're last.
Yeah, there's some higher end stuff.
Yeah. If there's more, I'm just. Yeah.
I would ask to, I would just ask for at least a quick little yes or no
Yeah.
discussion on this last one, our arts and culture program.
Yeah.
The program all in itself.
Okay, so the third one, the third one on that list, expand arts and culture program to work with private businesses to saturate downtown Urbana with murals, sculptures, and other physical art.
Yeah.
You guys want to do that? Saturate it?
Yes. Full saturation.
Just kidding. We're going to have bulls, painted bulls, goats, all the livestock. Yeah?
I just want to say that though that funding should be maybe private philanthropy, and we promote the idea and we facilitate private fundraising.
So do we want to do this third one, council? The word saturate is just flood. Overwhelm? We want to overwhelm downtown?
Moisturize. I don't know about saturate, but to increase maybe, or improve, or expand, or increase the vibrancy.
Yeah.
Something to that effect.
Is that a friendly amendment, Chris?
What's that?
Is that a friendly amendment for you, Chris?
Oh, I didn't say saturate, but
Drown downtown.
yeah, however you guys, whatever verb you want to use, just more.
Can we just clarify, did you say using private funding or is it a accommodate, what is your expectation?
I don't know, I mean, I don't know what's, like, Carol, obviously what's available through the Public Arts Commission, you know, they could use it to make their decision to do a project, but I guess what I'm saying is, like, on big projects or lots of projects, we should consider just generating the idea, facilitating discussion, and promoting private investment.
But that's at the exclusion of public investment.
I don't know. No, but I'm just saying, you can't afford all this stuff.
Chris, you think about like sponsorships?
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of ways of funding. I'm not saying it's strictly tax money. It should be a combination. I mean, the Public Arts Commission's gonna probably wanna come up with their own ideas and use their budget to fund something, and that's fine.
Increase, we removed the okay.
Remove that, right?
Yep. All right. So with that,
Can you say something about like to enhance the vibrancy of downtown or something like that? If you expand on it first.
Enhance the vibrancy, I'm good with that.
to enhance the vibrancy of downtown Urbana with murals, sculptures, and other physical art. That is great wording. To enhance the vibrancy. All right. With that, you are at 30 action items for 12 strategies for 4 strategic areas. So here's and 9:06. That is a power session. I'm impressed. Again, I know there's probably some items on here that were brought up by individuals or that really didn't get discussed. I do not know where you want to go with those. Obviously, they're in this draft, but my suggestion to you is the 30 that you have, refine those. Make sure that those are, wordsmith the way you want and ready to move forward. If you have to have further discussion, if there's more to be added, I don't know. I think that's for you guys to talk about maybe at a later session. But anybody have any questions? I'm impressed. You guys got once we got to it, you guys worked through it, and there's a lot of good things here. Anybody else? All right, Meryl, you want to close?
Yeah, you gotta adjourn.
You don't have to.
You have to adjourn.
Mary, would you like to say I don't think you can say a prayer, but you can say.
Before this council, we are adjourned.
All right, thank you. Give yourself a round of applause. You guys deserve it.